You know I'm back, like I never left. Another step.
Good morning, Nudelberg Daily Huddle.
It's the Nudelberg. It's takeover. You ready?
Let's go.
Turn that bad boy up.
I'm on my way.
You're having trouble with LinkedIn again.
I'm running late.
You're having trouble with LinkedIn.
I heard you die twice. Once when they bury you in the grave, and the second time is the last time that somebody mentions your name. So when I leave here on this earth, did I take more than I gave? Did I look out for the people, or did I do it all for fame? Legend is Exodus, searching for euphoria, judging through the mud to find the present, no ignoring.
Having trouble with LinkedIn.
People in the street like we some warriors. My mama told me never bow your head. I feel glorious, glorious.
Glorious. We start every day with music. Start with music.
I made it through the darkest of the night, and now I see the sunrise. Now I feel glorious, glorious. I feel
Good morning, Adam Case. Good to see you.
Feeling glorious.
There is no LinkedIn this morning. Oh no, now LinkedIn could be working. I think we may have LinkedIn finally.
Took a minute to connect. That's okay.
So I've had the goatee for Johnson. I've had the goatee for 4 months. So right from the get-go. So I think the leaner I get, the more you see the goatee.
100%.
The gentleman sitting across from me is my trainer, physically sitting across from me. Mr. Pete, you want to say hello?
Good morning, everybody.
There we go.
That guy had the pleasure of kicking my ass this morning.
A whole lot of pleasure.
Which was he loved it, man. He's loving life, man. Howie Craw, welcome to the party. 193, brother, and sticking right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, feeling good. I'm feeling good. Hopefully LinkedIn is coming in. Victor's here from LinkedIn, so we are right on target. It's Takeover Thursday, so Dr. Nudelberg, it's your show.
It is Takeover Thursday, and for those of you that are joining us on a Thursday for the first time, normally my dad is in the pilot seat, as the way he usually is, but on a Thursday, I get to take it over, and I get to drive the content and drive the show. So for those of you who didn't know the song, that was Macklemore, Glorious. So it is my job now, since my dad opened up the can of worms with Drake, to keep it current, bring in some new music every single week.
Oh, wait a minute. You're putting Drake and Macklemore in the same conversation? I think Macklemore's a little bit more mainstream. Yes,
Macklemore's hip hop though, for sure. I mean, he's a rapper.
Really? Okay.
That style of music is he's rapping over a beat. So to
there
me, that goes
conversations like this one that just make me feel out of it. You know, like, I don't even know where I am. You know, what country am I on? You know,
exactly.
What planet am I on?
So glad to have everybody on board this morning. It's glorious, and the words of that song speak directly to what we're going to be talking about today, which is all about toughness. For those of you who don't know me, I come from a sports background, and I'm going to draw a lot of the parallels from what we used to talk about in sports and toughness and how we can display that in business. But starting with the current events of the day, or what's happening today in history. Today is Arnold Schwarzenegger's birthday. So I don't know about you. When I think of Schwarzenegger, I think of movies. And in all reality, he probably hasn't been in a good movie since 2010. But go ahead.
I'm out. So you think of him as movies. I think of him being 30 plus years, older than you. I think of him as the ultimate bodybuilder, the guy who really built the category. He was a guy that came from Austria, and everybody was like, "You're out of your mind." He became, Mr. Olympian, something like that.
So a guy who went from being Mr. Olympia,
right,
Mr. Olympia, to being an ultimate star or action star on the screen to then being the governor of California, which obviously he's done a tremendous job as the American dream. But I wanted to roll through some of the movies because I think most people hear his name, they think Terminator, obviously, which Terminator's a classic, but not my favorite. What's your favorite Schwarzenegger movie?
My favorite Schwarzenegger movie, I think, will surprise people, but it would be Kindergarten Cop.
I love it. Oh, I'm so glad you went there.
I thought he was great in that movie. It was like, what a cool, for a guy that big and that overpowering to play that kind of role. I really felt, you fell for the guy. It's kind of nice.
Yep. So I love that that's where you went with it because the quotes that come from that, like, it's not a tumor. It's not a tumor. Right? And who is your daddy and what does he do? Like horrible Schwarzenegger, impression.
I mean, it's interesting though that on, today you chose to talk about toughness and, you taught that it just so happens to be his birthday. That's one tough motherfucker, man. That is, that has overcome every obstacle there is. Everybody bet against him. Whoever thought that a guy like that would be the governor, married to Maria Shriver from the Kennedy family? I mean, come on. The odds were amazing. Madison Clark in the house.
Good to see you this morning, Madison. So Pumping Iron. If you've never seen Pumping Iron, it's a great documentary about him and his track to Mr. Olympia, how he trains. And I love that your trainer's there this morning because the correlation to the physical pushing of your body to create the mental toughness to be able to push through physical pain and adversity obviously set him up for success in Hollywood, success in politics, and all of those things.
Yeah, I don't know the exact details and I don't know the exact name of the program, but he was one of the first guys to institute a workout program in school, like a mandatory sort of gymnastic kind of stretching, working, so I don't know the name of that. Anybody who is watching can Google it and let us know. But, the reality is he's done some real everlasting stuff, man. He's made an impression,
My favorite movie is True Lies. Hands down, my favorite.
You know what? Oh, you know what? That horse scene when he's chasing, on the horse, that's about as good as it gets. You're right.
Some other great roles that he's played in Batman and Robin. He was Mr. Freeze.
Right.
Junior, he gets pregnant, right? He takes like hormones, he gets pregnant and has a baby.
Twins.
Right?
Danny DeVito.
Twins. He's with Danny DeVito. Unbelievable role. Last Action Hero, which when I was a kid, I loved watching that movie where he literally comes out of a movie screen into real life. Obviously Kindergarten Cop. And then I never saw Conan the Barbarian, but obviously that's the one that put him on the map as a movie star.
Well, was he in Predator or any of those movies?
Total Recall.
Total Recall is another one. Somebody just said Running Man. Richard Dawson was like a game show, a futuristic game show where they would throw people out into this killing thing where they had to run and not get killed. That was great. Predator. There's another one. Doug. That's you know what? You think of the body of work, and no pun there, body of work that guy's put it out there. He's every bit what Rock is today.
Oh, 100 and continued on. I mean, he's been in the Expendables recently, and he's, Terminator's continued on for like another 75 years.
The Saturday Night Live kid, Hans and Franz was all about.
I want to pump you up, right?
That's classic. Oh, that's a good laugh, man. That is a Thursday for sure.
So a great piece of content for everybody to share today about Schwarzenegger's birthday and celebrating all of the work. Yep.
So I have a thought here. So most people, I think, if you mention Arnold Schwarzenegger, will have a positive feeling. I don't know that everybody goes, "Oh, that guy's a jerk or a dick or whatever." Right. But he did have an affair with his maid. You know what I mean?
And I don't even remember that.
With his maid. He had a kid with his maid.
I don't even remember that.
But here's what happens. Guys like that, they transcend their
the bad things that happen.
So it's interesting.
Sure. So going through history a little bit, today in 1948, professional wrestling debuts on a primetime network. So shout out to our good friends at Dex and Chaz Warrington. His professional wrestling background, the start of it being on national TV was today in 1948.
Saturday morning, Dusty Rhodes and all that, Pac Song and all those guys. So
continuing with the toughness theme. Today in 1966,
Funk Brothers.
The Funk Brothers. Wild Thing goes number 1 today in 1966, which for me, the only thing I think of when I hear Wild Thing is Charlie Sheen in Major League, right? Walking out with the haircut, another embodiment of toughness in a sports world.
Well, so it's funny when I hear Wild Thing, I think of Randy Quaid sitting in the outfield, fucking, going, Wild Thing, you ain't nothing.
Just heckling him all day long. And then my last piece of historic of content today is today in 1976, Caitlyn Jenner, then competing as Bruce Jenner, wins the decathlon, comes back from being down to the Russian, wins the 5 events that happened today, and blasts past everybody else to win, the best, touted the best athlete in the world. And obviously, for those of you who don't know the decathlon, it's 10 events that's supposed to measure the best athleticism of anybody in the world.
Love it.
So showing you how far we've come from then to today, where now that's Caitlyn Jenner. But awesome. So great start.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't put that in the same conversation as toughness. There's another word that's
I don't know. I disagree with you.
I don't know. I'm not making fun of it.
I think that number 1, talking about the decathlon, super tough, right? Requires so much to get through all 10 events, and you have to really be somebody special to do that. So love where we're going with the toughness, but now that we're really talking about it, and that's the content for the morning on what to share, toughness for me, when I got into sports, everybody would say, oh, that kid's tough, or our team has got to be tough in order to win the ball game, in order to have a great season, we got to display toughness. But nobody could ever really define what that meant. It was just this word that everybody threw around. And so I've been reading the book Toughness by Jay Billis, who's great. And he opens the book up defining it by the way it's defined when talking about materials. Whereas tough would be strong enough to withstand adverse conditions or rough or careless handling, and compares that to hard, which the definition of hard is solid, firm, rigid, not easily broken, bent, or pierced. So when you take those words and you then apply them to a person, it's really not a good quality to be hard. Nobody wants to work with somebody or be led by somebody who's hard because they're not willing to bend.
Hence why they call them a hardhead, man. It's like, so someone calls you, oh, forget it, man. Don't even go in his office. He's a hardhead, man. That's
right. Like glass would be considered hard. It takes a lot of force to pierce it, but it can be broken. Whereas toughness or something that's tough would be more like rubber, which could be bent and moved all around. So when I got into ball and I was like, all right, I'm a definition guy. I'm a guy, I need to know what we're talking about. I need to know the why. So I just said, nobody can define what toughness is in a football player. I'm going to start writing down all the things that when somebody says, oh, that kid's tough, every time something would happen that would make somebody say it, I'm going to write it down so I can put together all of the qualities that create toughness.
Oh, I'm super interested in this one, dude. Nice.
So the things that happened that created it in a sports world was like a kid would get hit really hard and pop right up. So like that kid's tough player.
People still to some degree say that about anybody. Oh, that was a tough hit. He's a tough guy. Forget
right. So a guy would do something extra at the end of a play. Like, he'd be battling to the whistle and give like a final push or do something to really finish the play right when. That's a tough play.
Lynch is tough because
finishing inbounds, finishing the play hard. That's a tough play. Somebody would be on the field and they would do an extra piece of communication. They would point and tell somebody what to do. Oh, that's a tough play. That's a tough play, They would help somebody else do their job. They would get through with theirs and it'd be like a double team and they'd grab somebody else or they'd do something extra to help somebody else. Competing against somebody that they were outmatched, like a little receiver going into the box to make a big block against the linebacker. Oh, that's a tough play. He's outmatched right there, but he's not afraid to go do that job. And just some guys, they didn't do anything special ever. They just did their job over and over and over, and they'd be like, oh, that's tough,
Well, so they would also talk about guys like Zach Thomas who were smaller, didn't have the body, but he made it up in toughness.
So what all of that meant to me was that none of these things that they were talking about had anything to do with physical ability or talent or anything that they couldn't control. It was really just how they played the game that made them tough. So I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. So that's really a mentality then. It's how they go about their business on a daily basis, how they play the game that makes them tough. So for me getting into business, how do you become tough in business? What do you do on a daily basis that the people around you say, you know what, that's a tough guy. That's a tough girl. That's a tough coworker of mine because they're doing things that embody toughness in the business world. So I broke it down into activities that kind of move linearly. So as we're getting here with 5 minutes left, I want to talk about each one. So let's jump into it. The first one is be on time. To me, it doesn't require a whole lot of effort to be on time, but it's a piece of detail and it's something that you can do that displays not only do you respect other people's time, but you respect your own time because you show up when you're supposed to be there. When it was in person, I would say 5 minutes early was the right thing to do. To be there early and show up before it was actually supposed to start. Now in a Zoom world, I think as long as you're there at the strike of the hour, you're on time.
Well, so what's interesting about that, just real quickly, is that if you're a minute late in the old days for Starbucks coffee, if you happen to be parking or whatever, and you walked in at 12:01,
right,
nobody gives a shit. 12:01, you're not in the Zoom call. It's like the world is ending. What are you doing? Like, relax, man.
So I think being on time is something that you show respect with, being prepared. So knowing what's expected of you and meeting that standard, no matter what it is. So I don't care if it's anticipating what's coming. I don't care if it's doing research prior to, or if it's just having a pen and paper on hand to be able to take a note. Being on time, being prepared are two things to me that start to embody that tough business person.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would have not, that wouldn't have been a correlation I would have made for toughness. That would have been more of an expectation for me that people who are doing great things, take care of the details. But there is a sense of toughness because it's not easy to be on time. You have to make a commitment to get
Correct.
To do it. So I like where you're going here.
So paying attention to detail, right? Like, and I love this story. I'm going to bring this story up because you got a message from an editor who wanted to help you write a second book. They reached out to you because you were an author. They're an editor. They have a service to offer to you. But in the message, there was a typo from the editor.
Can you imagine?
How could, as an editor, like that's your job. The attention to detail is you're sending a piece of outreach to somebody. To have a typo in it is the ultimate miss.
Well, you brought the story up. The start of the conversation, her reaching out to me, was that, hey, congratulations on your book. I noticed a couple of typos in there, or it wasn't even typos. There was maybe some misused grammar or whatever it was. The book is 2 years old. I never told everybody I would put out a perfect book, but here she's trying to pitch me on doing the next book. And you're right. She has a mistake in there. It's great.
So we're going to go over, because we got a couple minutes left, and I'll post all of this in because I wrote all of these up with a little detail about each one. But the next one is take and give feedback. Everybody that you work with is a human. Everybody is human. Everybody is constantly evolving. The first thing you got to be able to do is take the coaching, take the criticism, remove the emotion from it, accept what's being taught, and then put it into action. and at the same time, give feedback. Don't be afraid to point out that there's an issue. But if you're going to point out an issue, make sure you come with a solution. Don't just say, hey, this is a problem. Somebody needs to fix it, right? The toughness part of you is, hey, here's the problem. Here's an idea how to fix it. I don't know whether or not it's the right idea, but I got an idea on what we can do to help the problem. Next one, be persistent, consistent, and resilient, right? I think persistent means that you're just going to keep coming back time after time. It doesn't matter what happens. You're going to show up for work Monday through Friday consistently, meaning showing up the same way, delivering to people over and over and over. And then resiliency, meaning, hey, there's going to be negativity. There's going to be setback. There's going to be bad things that happen. Process it, get rid of it, move on, and get back to being persistent and consistent.
There's another word that fits in that, and I was experiencing it this morning. I was super tired. Pete kicked my ass. We're boxing near the end, and he goes, listen, I'm going to be relentless regardless. I'm coming at you, So, that relentlessness, he goes, you got to, if I step into your space, I'm going to steal your energy, and you have to defend that. So that's that relentless nature. And I literally could barely lift my arms this morning, and he's smiling like a motherfucker just coming at me.
So I got two more. We're at 8:20. We're at our hard stop, but we're going to go over, but I got two more. Be accountable and dependable. I used to talk about double E's when I was in sports. The double E's meant effort and execution. Okay. So you couldn't have one or the other. You had to have both in order to get you that whole way. So just because you're doing the job isn't enough. You got to do it with unbelievable energy. You got to do it with unbelievable passion. You got to do more
every time.
Every single time. So that's the dependable part. The accountable part is owning everything that happens, owning mistakes, communicating about them, talk to people about when something is going to be done, how it's going to be done, and be accountable to those things. The last one is have pride, but don't be too proud. Have pride about everything you do. The way you do your tie, the way you button your pants, the way you tie your shoes, the way you present something to somebody, the way you shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye, the way you're smiling when you greet somebody in a Zoom. Have pride about your actions, but don't be too proud, because there's never a job that's beneath you. You're willing to do anything and everything to help the success of your team, your organization, all of the things. Have pride, but don't be too proud. So that's 2, 4, 6. That's 7 keys to being tough in business on this Thursday.
And starting out with the toughness funnel, putting it all under the category of toughness, mental toughness is, it informs physical toughness, because your brain is messing with your body, telling you can't do it. Okay, I'm too tired. I can just lay here. I can do that. So I love Michelle, even, pride, not prideful. But to me, the one really cool takeaway about what you said is, I think it's a real compliment when you can say to somebody that they're coachable. In my career, I was a sponge for new information. Why wouldn't I be? I wanted to get better every day. So whatever information, I had the chance to process it and make my own decision. I didn't have to tell them, well, I don't believe in that. What's the point? Digest it, fit it into what you do, be open, be aware. Couple of cool shout outs. Brett Dunn is in the house, man. Way to see my man Brett, and Scott Taylor's back. Congratulations on your campaign with the Arizona Diamondbacks. All good stuff. Mark, you hit a home run today, to use the baseball vernacular. Great stuff. Go out and be tough, like a Ford.
For those of you that want to see it, for those of you that want to read it again, I'll post all of this into the Huddle. I've typed up a little document, so I'll put it all in there so that you can find the 7 ways to being tough in business. But that's what it's about. And I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but if you focus on the actions, it'll help build your mindset to have mental toughness. And that's the best way to go about your business.
Shout out, and then I'll take us home. Doug Meridian, what an unbelievable voice message you sent yesterday through LinkedIn. Way to use the new tools the right way, but really heartfelt. Thank you. He had a conversation with you, Mark. he was super jacked about. He falls in between you and me age-wise, but made me feel really good about all of the stuff that you and I are doing, and the proud nature of how you have taken the ball and run with it. So you go out there, you go make something happen today. You know why? Because you can. Boom.
Awesome. Get it done.